Hey everybody, it's Drew with Universal Audio, and in this video, we're going to check out the new LA-6176 channel strip plugin. Experience Universal Audio's 70-plus year analog heritage with a supercharged plugin version of our flagship tube channel strip. The new LA-6176 signature channel strip plugin gives you three iconic UA products in one: the 610 mic preamp, the 1176 limiting amplifier, and the LA-2A Leveling Amplifier. Let's check it out. Okay, so for our first example, we're gonna take a look at a vocal application. Let me start by playing what we have tracked already. Plugin is bypassed, and let's take a quick listen.
Couldn't drink it until tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
So, it needs a little bit of help. It's a little bit dark, it's lacking clarity, it's a little bit woofy. Let's start off by checking out what just the preamp side can do for us. So on the left-hand side, we have the 610 preamp, which is a dual gain stage 2 preamp. We have input gain. This allows you to really drive the input model. And then we have an output level control for the output tube gain stage. We're gonna start off with the dynamics are basically doing nothing. I'm just using that output controller at 1-to-1. EQ is bypassed. I do have the high pass filter on, which cleans up the saturation a little bit. Let's give a listen to what just the 610 preamp's saturation brings to the table.
Couldn't drink it until tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
So I'm pushing it pretty good. We could of course dial that back a little, get a little less color if you don't want any of that hair. We could also go farther, right? Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just drive it a little harder. Let's see what that brings to the table.
Couldn't drink it until tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
For some, that's too much. We can back it off. You could also run this on a send and blend it in. So lots of choices here, lots of color variation. I'm gonna go for, I'll stick with around 9 on that. So we got to hear what just the saturation brings to the table. Let's bring the EQ into the picture. Now, it's a 2-band EQ. You've got 3 frequencies. On the low end, 70, 100, and 200. You got 3 frequencies on the top end, 4.5, 7, and 10. So these are nice musical filters. In this case, I'm gonna let's try a dB and a half at 10K. And I think, let's start with -1.5. I might wind up coming to 3, but let's see if we can pull out some of that woolliness in this vocal. So let's listen to now saturation with EQ added.
Couldn't drink it till tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
So now we've got a high pass filter, we've got some saturation happening, and we have some nice musical broad strokes on the EQ here. Okay, so let's bring the dynamic side of the plugin into the equation. I'm gonna start off with the 1176. This is a classic FET transistor compressor. It's got really fast attack and release. It's awesome at adding a punch and aggression to vocals. We've got a classic setup here: slow attack, fast release, input and output, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I'm doing 8-to-1 ratio, which is pretty aggressive. Feel free to experiment with that. Right now I've got the mix knob at 100% wet. I also have the sidechain filter engaged. This is a tilt filter that's going to make this compressor less sensitive to low end and more sensitive to top end. So let's go ahead and give that a listen and see what these settings I've dialed up sound like.
Couldn't drink it until tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
So now we're really starting to smooth out the dynamics while also adding some energy and some vibe. Okay, so let's switch the plugin over to LA-2A mode. Now this compressor is different from an 1176. It's an optical design. It has an average attack time of around 10 milliseconds and a much more gentle release. So this is gonna bring smoothness and silkiness as opposed to the aggression that the 1176 gave to us. So let's give that a listen.
Couldn't drink it until tomorrow. I'm giving back the pills that I borrowed.
Okay, so now we're just talking smoothness, silkiness. The cool thing is I can switch between the two and it'll retain those settings. And that allows me to dial in each one perfectly and then toggle back and forth until I make my final decision. So I liked both of these settings, but I think I'm gonna go with the 1176. I like the aggression that it brings to the table, and in context, I think this one's gonna work a little bit better. All right, so I really like what this is doing to my lead vocal. Let's check it out on drums. Okay, so we have the LA-6176 loaded up on our drum bus, and we're doing some similar things here. Gonna have some drive on the 610. This time I'm really pushing the input stage. We're going to +10 here, and a little bit below 6 on the output drive. We've got filter off, of course. We're on drums. We don't want to cut off 75 and below. And this time I've got 1.5 dB of 7K dialed in, and I'm pulling off some of that 200 like I did with the vocal to kind of add some clarity. From there, we've got an 1176 dialed in on the right-hand side. We're at a 4:1 ratio, slow attack, fast release, really driving the input pretty hard because I want to get a lot of compression here. And then the output, we have at 3. So the reason for that is because I'm going to use the mix knob in this case. Now, if I were to have this at 100% wet, it's a little over the top, right? It's a little bit washed out. So we've pulled back to get in some of that dry signal. So we're going to start off with it off, and then we'll turn it back on, and we'll see what it's bringing to the table. Okay, so now let's check out this section in the mix. All right, so I really like what the 6176 is doing to my drum bus here. It's taking my snare drum and making it less papery. It's got a nice, more of a sheen to it. The hi-hat is kind of glued to the snare. Rhythmically, this drum kit is just working so much better for me in this verse. So we've seen the 6176 in a mixing scenario. It really helped our lead vocal and our drum bus. But what about recording? This plugin is available on the UAD 2 platform, and with Apollo, allows you to track through it at low latency using our Unison technology. So let's record some bass. So I'm gonna play a little bit of the part, just the bass, plugged straight in to the high Z input. So I'm gonna engage the plugin, and what we've got going here is, we've got in the upper left-hand corner, we have a good bit of drive on the input stage. My output level control is around 6.5. And then on the 1176 side, what I've got is I'm utilizing all buttons in mode. This was a sort of a classic hack you could do with real 1176s by pushing all the buttons in carefully with your fingers. We've got it built into this plugin, and it's really gonna help add some aggression to this bass. So let's give it a listen with the Unison plugin and with this processing and compression. Right, so this bass has really come alive. Me as the player, it feels different, right? It feels different to play the bass pushed into a Unison plugin. It's really comfortable. I feel like I can play better when I'm using this plugin in Unison mode. So I think we're ready to record, so let's get to it. Okay, now that we've got the bass track, let's just give it one final listen in context. So I hope this video has given you some ideas on how to use the LA-6176. Be sure to check out the free 14-day demo so that you can hear it on your own tracks.